Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world one book at a time.
It is good to be back.
Today, we are cracking open a book that I think a huge portion of the population might have dismissed. Maybe they saw the movie trailer, maybe they saw the young adult label in the bookstore, and they thought, okay, this is just a cash grab prequel. We are talking about The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins.
Right.
But if you are sitting there thinking this is just some teenage romance or a simple how the bad guy got bad story,
Yeah.
you really need to pull up a chair. Because this book, it isn't just a story, it is a manual.
That is the perfect way to frame it. It's a technical manual, really, on the construction of authoritarianism.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is pretty specific. We're not going to spend the next hour talking about the love story or, not the romance part of it.
Yeah.
We aren't here to just recap the plot point by point.
No, this is systems analysis.
Yeah. We are here to answer a core systemic question. How does a political system, any system, convince an individual that cruelty is actually order? And that absolute domination is the only real form of security.
And that question, it feels incredibly urgent right now, doesn't it? We often look at figures of extreme power or regimes that demand total compliance, and we wonder, how did that happen?
Or why do people go along with that?
Exactly. And Collins is doing something very sophisticated here. She shows us that it rarely starts with someone just waking up one morning and deciding to be a monster. It starts with a system that recruits you. It starts with a system that rewards compliance, and this is key, specifically punishes empathy.
We're watching the construction of President Snow. But we're seeing him as Coriolanus Snow, an 18-year-old kid. And before we get into his head, we have to look at the world he is inhabiting. This isn't the Panem we know from the Katniss Everdeen era, is it?
No, and that context is absolutely where the analysis has to start. If you want to understand the output of a system, in this case, the tyrant Snow becomes, you have to understand the inputs.
So what are the inputs? Where are we?
We are 10 years past the Dark Days.
Yeah.
That was the Civil War where the districts rebelled against the Capitol. The Capitol won, but it was a Pyrrhic victory, a victory that cost them almost everything.
It's not the shiny, high-tech, buffet-eating city we know from the original trilogy.
Oh, far from it. It is rubble. It is craters. It's post-apocalyptic in a very, very literal sense.
Yeah.
The text describes the Snow family penthouse, this place that is supposed to be the absolute seat of luxury and old money power. But what's the reality?
It's falling apart.
The windows are broken, held together with black electrical tape. They're burning books, literally burning their own culture, their history, just to stay warm in the winter because the power grid is completely unreliable.
And the food situation really paints this picture of scarcity, of desperation. They aren't drinking champagne or eating fancy cake.
They're boiling cabbage.
Right. The smell of boiling cabbage.
The smell of poverty, as Coriolanus calls it, and he hates it.
It's such a visceral detail. You have this kid, Coriolanus, who is the heir to the great house of Snow. And
Yeah.
He's counting every calorie. He opens the fridge, and it's just a pot of mushy potatoes.
And he has these memories, these traumatic flashbacks to the siege, watching neighbors literally carving up a dead maid for food.
That's a brutal image.
It is, but it's the baseline of trauma for the character. It establishes what we would call a scarcity mindset, but dialed up to 11. He knows from direct experience that civilization is thin. He has seen with his own eyes that when the structure falls apart, people become, as he puts it, edible.
Edible, wow.
And that fear of being consumed literally and metaphorically drives every single decision he makes from that point on. He isn't operating out of malice, not the beginning. He is operating out of a desperate, clawing survival instinct.
Which brings us to the first major symbol in the book, which I honestly found so fascinating because it seems so small, but it carries so much weight.
The shirt.
The shirt. Let's unpack this for the listener because it's so important. It's reaping day for the 10th Hunger Games. Coriolanus needs to show up looking like a rich, powerful mentor from a great house.
He has to project power.
But he has absolutely nothing to wear. He is panicking over a piece of clothing.
It sounds so trivial, doesn't it? But in a high-control society like the Capitol, appearance is armor. It is everything.
What's the problem with the shirt he has?
He finds his father's old academy shirt, but it's trash, it's stained, it's yellowed with age, it's missing buttons. If he wears that, the illusion is shattered. Everyone knows the Snows are broke.
And what happens then?
In this system, if you lose your status, you lose your protection, you become indistinguishable from the district people he despises. You become, edible.
So his cousin Tigress steps in. And this scene, knowing what we know about Tigress later in the series, it broke my heart a little.
It's an act of desperate love. What does she do? She takes this ruined shirt.
She bleaches it, right? To get the yellow out?
She bleaches it. She dyes it with dead marigolds she finds in a trash bin to hide the stains. And this is the detail that just got me. She cuts mosaic tiles out of the maid's bathroom floor to fashion them into buttons.
From the floor.
From the floor. They are literally breaking down their own house to create a costume.
It's a performance.
It is the performance of power. They are creating an illusion that says we are still on top. We are still Snow.
And when Coriolanus puts it on, he feels transformed. He looks in the mirror and he feels powerful, regal.
He literally salutes himself in the mirror. Coriolanus Snow, future president of Panem, I salute you. It's this incredible moment of self-creation.
But if you peel that back a layer, what's really happening, the system is forcing him to mask his vulnerability.
Exactly.
He cannot admit he's hungry. He cannot admit he's poor. If he shows any weakness, the system will eat him alive. So his first instinct is deception. Masking.
That is a learned behavior dictated entirely by the social environment. He learns right there that truth is dangerous, but image is safety.
And while he's doing this, while they're fabricating these buttons out of bathroom tiles, we have this auditory backdrop.
His grandmother, the grandmam,
singing the national anthem, Gem of Panem, out the broken window.
Loudly. For all the neighbors to hear.
She's singing about the mighty city in the heart of justice while her grandchildren are eating watery cabbage soup in a bombed-out apartment. Why is she doing that? What is the function of that?
That is nationalism functioning as a psychological defense mechanism. It's a shield.
A shield against what?
Against reality.
Yeah.
The reality is decline, starvation, and ruin. But the song insists they are powerful, righteous, and superior. If the grandmam admits the capital is broken, that it's weak.
Then she has to admit her suffering was for nothing.
Exactly. So she clings to the anthem. It's a way of denying reality to maintain a sense of self, a sense of worth. It's a collective delusion that Coriolanus is just soaking in every single day.
So we have a traumatized boy, terrified of losing his status, pretending to be rich.
Living with a grandmother who is singing patriotic songs to drown out the sound of their own poverty.
That is the soil in which Coriolanus Snow is growing.
Precisely. And now, into that very fertile soil, we introduce the catalyst, the 10th Hunger Games.
Which, again, we have to stress, are not the games we know. If you are imagining the high-tech arenas and the fashion shows and the celebrity interviews,
wipe that away. Forget all of it.
These games are, well, honestly, they're boring.
They are primitive. They're brutal and quick. There are no fancy arenas with force fields or changing weather or genetically engineered wasps. Not yet.
It's just a dilapidated amphitheater.
And the tributes. They aren't treated like celebrities before the slaughter. They are not styled or interviewed. They are treated like livestock.
They throw them in a zoo.
Literally. In a cage. In the old monkey house. They are starving. They're dirty. They're huddled together like animals. And the problem the capital faces, the marketing problem, if you will, is that nobody watches.
Why not? You'd think it would be compelling.
Because it's just sad. It's brutality without narrative. It's just executing a bunch of scared kids. It's grim and people look away.
So the system is failing.
The system is failing. A system of terror only works if people are engaged with it, if they're watching it. If the games are just a slaughterhouse, they don't serve their primary purpose, which is propaganda.
Enter the innovation, the big idea.
Mentorship. The academy students, Snow, his friend Sejanus, all the elite children are assigned as mentors. This is the first time this ever happened.
And this is where the system gets smart, or, more insidious.
Look at the assignment they are given by Dr. Gall and Dean Highbottom. They aren't told to help the tributes. They aren't told to save them or train them to be better fighters.
No, what's the instruction?
The instruction is make people watch.
That is such a chilling phrase. Make people watch. It shifts the entire goal from punishment to entertainment.
It completely changes the nature of the evil. Cruelty is not enough for the system to sustain itself. It needs spectacle. It needs emotional investment from the audience.
And Snow figures this out faster than anybody else.
Immediately. When he meets his tribute, Lucy Graybeard from District 12.
The singer.
The performer. He realizes that to win, and he needs to win to get the Plinth Prize, which is a scholarship he desperately needs for university tuition, he has to market her. He has to sell her story.
He frames her. He makes a specific decision not to present her as district.
No, he presents her as Covey, as this sort of wandering entertainer. He divorces her from the political identity of rebel.
He makes her an individual.
Yes, and he realizes he needs the audience to see her as human enough to root for her, but, and this is the really critical part, not so human that they question the whole system.
It's a balancing act.
He needs them to want her to survive, which implicitly means they have to be okay with the other 23 kids dying. He turns empathy into a competitive sport. He commodifies her humanity for views.
It's basically the birth of reality TV ethics applied to a death match.
Exactly. And that brings us to the architect of all this, the teacher, the puppet master, Dr. Volumnia Gaul.
The head game maker.
The head game maker and the chief ideologue of the new Panem.
She is. I mean, she's terrifying. But she's also the philosopher of the book. She isn't just a villain doing bad things for the sake of it. She has a worldview, a coherent philosophy.
A deeply disturbing one, but yes, a coherent one.
There's this scene early on. She has a tank of snakes in her lab.
The rainbow snakes. Genetically engineered, of course.
Of course. And she drops a mouse in there. The snakes just swarm it. And she asks Snow, what are these snakes? And he tries to give the right answer. He says, they are weapons.
And she says, no, they are nature.
And that's it. That's the whole philosophy right there.
This is the core ideology of the capital, and really the core ideology of authoritarianism as it's presented in this text. Dr. Gaul is a Hobbesian. She believes in the work of the philosopher Thomas Hobbes, who argued that the state of nature, life without government, without control, is a war of all against all.
Nasty, brutish, and short.
Exactly. So in her view, we human beings, we are the snakes.
Without the capital's iron fist, we would just tear each other apart.
That's her belief. She believes that without strict, absolute control, humanity is just that tank of snakes. She views freedom as synonymous with violence and chaos.
So the arena, it isn't just a punishment for the past rebellion. It serves a different, ongoing function.
No, and this is the revelation Snow has, which he later writes in his essay for her. The arena is a demonstration. It's a living laboratory.
A proof of concept.
It is a controlled experiment designed to show the citizens of Panem year after year. Look at these children. You think they're innocent, you think humanity is naturally good. Put them in a chaotic environment with no rules and they become beasts. They become murderers. This is who you really are.
But that is a rigged experiment. I mean, you starve them, you give them weapons, you tell them only one can live, and then you point and say, see, this is human nature. It's a complete self-fulfilling prophecy.
Of course it is. It's completely rigged. The conclusion is predetermined. But for Snow, it's seductive. It's a very seductive idea. Because remember his trauma. Remember the people eating the maid. He is terrified of chaos. Dr. Gaul offers him a worldview that says, control prevents chaos. Therefore, any amount of violence used to maintain control is not only justified, it is necessary, it is moral.
It's the social contract taken to its most brutal and absolute extreme. We surrender our freedom, and more specifically, the lives of these district kids, in exchange for order.
And Snow buys into it, hook, line, and sinker. He writes about chaos, control, and contract. He starts to view the system not as something cruel, but as something necessary. He convinces himself that he is on the side of civilization, holding back the darkness.
The system gives him a framework, a language, to rationalize the horrors he is actively participating in.
And that's how you recruit someone. You give them an ideology that makes their actions feel righteous.
But there is a glitch in this system, a human glitch, a variable they didn't account for.
Sejanus Plant.
Sejanus. He's the moral heart of the book, isn't he? And arguably the real tragic hero.
Absolutely. He's the foil to Snow in every conceivable way. He's new money. His father was a munitions manufacturer in District 2 who basically bought his family's way into the capital after the war.
So Sejanus has the one thing Snow desperately needs, money. But he hates the very system that Snow reveres.
Sejanus still identifies with the districts. He hasn't forgotten where he came from. He looks at the tributes in the monkey house, and he sees children. He sees his old classmates.
While Snow looks at them and sees a project, or a threat, or a means to an end.
Sejanus hasn't been fully indoctrinated into the U.S. versus them mentality as deeply as Snow has. He still sees their shared humanity.
Which leads to the sandwich incident. Sejanus is so horrified by the starving tributes that he brings them sandwiches. He sneaks into the zoo to feed them. And the way this is treated, you'd think he'd brought a bomb. It's a massive scandal.
Because in an authoritarian system, unauthorized empathy is one of the most dangerous things you can do.
Why? It seems so small, so kind.
Because the entire system relies on a rigid binary. Us versus them. capital versus district, human versus animal. By feeding them, by treating them as humans who are simply hungry, Sejanus blurs that line. He threatens the psychological barrier that allows the games to exist.
If the audience sees the tributes as kids just like their own, the whole contract falls apart.
The whole thing collapses. You can't justify the slaughter if they're just people.
And Snow's reaction to this?
Yeah.
He hates Sejanus for it. You would think some part of him would admire the kindness, but he just sees it as reckless and stupid.
He thinks Sejanus is ungrateful. Sejanus has the safety and the wealth that Snow craves, and in Snow's eyes, he's throwing it all away on sentimental nonsense.
So Snow views Sejanus' empathy as a weakness.
A luxury that only rich people who don't understand the stakes can afford. And ironically, Snow is right. The system is absolutely designed to punish that empathy, which it does.
This leads to the ultimate betrayal. We have to move to part 3 of the book. The games are over, things have gone disastrously wrong, and both Snow and Sejanus end up as peacekeepers in District 12.
This is where the theory becomes practice. The rubber meets the road. Sejanus, being who he is, can't just be a soldier. He immediately gets involved with local rebels.
He wants to help them.
He wants to help a pair of locals escape north. He has plans. He's using his father's money to buy illegal guns.
It's treason, flat out.
It is absolutely treason under capital law, and Snow finds out. Now let's just pause here for a second. At this point, Snow calls Sejanus his brother. They're supposedly best friends. He could talk to him, he could warn him, he could try to stop him.
But he doesn't.
No. He finds a jabberjay, one of the capital's genetically engineered birds that can record and repeat human speech, and he tricks Sejanus into confessing his entire plan to the bird.
And sends it to Dr. Gall.
He sends the bird straight back to the capital. He reports his best friend to the secret police, and the result is immediate and brutal.
Sejanus is arrested. He's taken to the hanging tree.
And the detail that just haunts me from the text is that as he is dying, he is screaming for his mother, "Mama!"
It's absolutely devastating. And Snow is there. He's forced to watch this. He feels guilt, right? He throws up afterwards.
He feels a physical reaction, yes, of visceral disgust. But watch the rationalization. This is the systems macking part of our discussion. The gears start turning in his head.
How does he justify it?
He tells himself, if I didn't report him, I would have gone down with him. He was a sinking ship. I had to cut him loose to survive.
Pure self-preservation.
But then comes the feedback loop. The crucial next step. The system's reward. Because Sejanus is now dead, the Plinth family, who are heartbroken and have no idea Snow is the one who ratted their son out, they decide to adopt Snow.
No!
Yes. They pay for his university, they name him as their sole heir, they give him Sejanus' entire inheritance.
So the system literally pays him for destroying his conscience.
That is the lesson. That is the core of his education. The system selects for ruthlessness. If Snow had been loyal to his friend, he would be dead or in prison in District 12. Because he betrayed his friend for the state, he becomes the heir to a massive fortune. He learns, in the most direct way possible, that in this world, empathy gets you killed, but compliance gets you the penthouse.
That is a dark, dark lesson. And it feeds directly into his relationship with Lucy Gray, because we have to talk about that transformation. He helps her win the games, yes, but it's not a clean win.
He cheats. Constantly.
He gives her the compact filled with rat poison. He drops his handkerchief with Lucy Gray's scent into the tank of snakes so they won't bite her.
Snow lands on top. That's his mantra. It's repeated over and over.
But notice, he tells himself he's doing it for her. I'm saving her. I love her. But is it love?
It's not love. It's possession. It's an investment. He's saving his own project. If she wins, he wins. He treats her like the prize filly in a race he has bet everything on.
And that all comes to a terrifying head in the woods, the climax of the book. They're running away together. Snow has, for a moment, decided to abandon the system, to leave his old life behind.
But then the paranoia sets in.
This is the moment where that Hobbesian worldview from Dr. Gall takes over completely. They are in the woods, no capital, no peacekeepers, no rules, just nature, freedom.
And Snow hates it. He is terrified by it.
He finds the guns, the murder weapons that tie him to the crimes he committed back in District 12, and he realizes that the only loose end, the only person left in the world who knows he's a murderer, is Lucy Gray.
And in that moment, all trust just evaporates. It's gone. He calls out to her and she's vanished. She understands in that instant who he really is, and he starts shooting.
He starts hunting the songbird.
He goes from lover to hunter in a heartbeat. It's such a rapid, chilling shift.
Why does he break so completely?
Because in the absence of the capital structure and the chaos of the woods, he cannot handle the uncertainty. He craves the control Dr. Gall spoke of. He realizes that freedom feels like chaos to him. He chooses the cage.
He chooses to go back.
He chooses to go back to the capital, back to the structure, because even if it's cruel, it's predictable. He knows the rules of that game.
He needs the walls. He needs the hierarchy. He can't function without them.
Exactly. He is a creature of the system now, through and through.
He returns to the capital, and we get this final devastating piece of the puzzle, the bureaucracy of evil. He confronts Dean Highbottom, his old nemesis.
And we find out the true origin of the Hunger Games. And honestly, it's so stupid. It's so small and petty.
It wasn't some grand demonic plan for control.
Not at all. It was a university project. Highbottom and Crassus Snow, Coriolanus' father, were students together. They were drunk one night. Their professor, Dr. Gall, tasked them with creating a theoretical punishment for a theoretical enemy.
And Highbottom came up with the games as a dark joke, a satire. He was just trying to think of the most horrible, depraved thing possible. What's the worst thing we could possibly do?
And Crassus Snow, Coriolanus' father, took this drunken, satirical idea and turned it in for a grade, without Highbottom's consent.
Bureaucratic ambition. He wasn't thinking about morality or ethics. He wanted a good grade. He wanted to impress the professor.
Which brings to mind that famous concept from Hannah Arendt, the banality of evil.
Exactly. The architecture of tyranny often starts with something that banal. It's not always a mustache-twirling villain stroking a cat. It's a student wanting an A. It's an intern trying to impress a boss.
Crassus Snow didn't necessarily hate the districts with some burning passion. He just wanted to advance his career. And that small, selfish act of ambition created a machine that would go on to kill thousands of children.
And his son, Coriolanus, finishes the job. He ends the book not in jail, not dead in the woods, but essentially on the throne. He is the plinth heir. He's being groomed for power by Dr. Gall. And he makes a few suggestions for improving the future games.
The victor's village, and food parcels for the winning district.
Which seems almost kind. Why give them prizes? Isn't the point just to punish them?
This is the final, most brilliant lock on the system. If you just punish people, if you just grind them into the dirt, they eventually rebel because they have nothing left to lose. But if you give them a chance, a tiny 1 in 24 sliver of hope that their kid could win, you implicate them in the system.
You give them a reason to watch, a reason to cheer.
Exactly. If District 12 wants food for a year, they have to root for their tribute to kill the kid from District 4. It turns the victims against each other.
It creates a stake in the violence. It makes the districts complicit in their own oppression.
That is the genius and the absolute horror of the system Snow helps to perfect. He takes Highbottom's drunken, stupid idea and turns it into a sustainable, self-perpetuating institution of control.
So let's bring this all back to our crisis in perception framework. We've looked at the book, we've walked through the system. What are the big takeaways here for us?
I think we can summarize it with those 3 C's that Snow obsesses over in his essay: chaos, contract, and control.
Walk us through those one more time.
The system, the state, sells the narrative that the world without it is chaos, that human beings are inherently violent and dangerous, they're the snakes in the tank. Therefore, we need a contract. We agree to surrender our freedom, our autonomy, and in this case, our children. Why? To achieve control. To have safety and order.
But the book shows us, in painstaking detail, that order is often just a mask for coercion,
Right.
for violence.
Right. And Snow isn't a monster because he enjoys blood. The text makes it clear he actually doesn't like the blood. He's squeamish.
So why does he become a monster?
He becomes a monster because he is terrified of chaos. He equates security with absolute domination, and there's no room for anything else.
And the system rewarding him for that. Every step of the way, they took a boy who was just worried about his dirty shirt, who just wanted to fit in and not be poor.
And it turned him into a tyrant by rewarding his worst instincts: betrayal, deception, violence, and punishing his best ones, like his loyalty to Sejanus or his love for Lucy Gray.
It's a tragedy of formation. It asks us to look at our own systems, big and small. What behavior is being rewarded? Are we, in our jobs and our communities, rewarding empathy and connection? Or are we rewarding the ability to cut others loose to save ourselves?
It's a heavy question.
It really is. And that brings us to our final provocation for you, the listener. We want you to think about this. Where do we see the narrative of chaos being used today to justify control?
And at what point does the social contract become a suicide pact? When does that trade off my freedom for your safety stop being a fair exchange and start being a cage?
Something to mull over.
Indeed.
We want to give full credit to Suzanne Collins for the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. It is a dense, thoughtful, and incredibly relevant piece of political fiction. It is well worth reading, especially if you think you already know the story.
Absolutely. Go borrow it from a library, read the text itself. It's all there.
This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis and Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon.
For a shorter, visual overview of this topic, see the mini explainer linked in the description.
If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Until next time.